See how the top of the First Division looks tonight. It looks like this. Liverpool have extended their lead now to 4 points. Watford goes second. Forest move up to third spot. West Ham drop from second to fourth as a result of their defeat. Manchester United go down from third to fifth. And Aston Villa move into the picture with their seventh home league win of the season today, beating United, of course. They are now sixth. At the bottom, it looks like this. Birmingham City go back to the bottom. Norwich City having had a good win today. Sunderland are now second from bottom, and Southampton are still in trouble, losing at home to Ipswich today. Luton Town moved down there as well because they can't win away. Right now, there was a tremendous match in the second division, which we're going to hear about in a minute. Let me just put you in the picture. Queen's Park Rangers go top. Fulham go second. Sheffield Wednesday, held at home by Burnley, dropped to third. Wolves are fourth. Leeds fifth, and Oldham Athletic, who are having a pretty useful run too, are in sixth spot. Well, as that match I was mentioning, of course, in the second division was between the clubs who were lying fourth and third. That's Wolves and Fulham. Wolves were leading. Fulham eventually won by 4-2. Paul McDowell now reports.
And Wolves handed a comprehensive lesson on positive finishing this afternoon. The home side had held the initiative for much of the early game with headed goals by Clark and Gray, while Lewington had pulled one back for Fulham. And for a 10-minute period in the second half, Wolves had Fulham's defence shaking and jittering, but throwing away so many goal opportunities. Then Gordon Davis equalised for Fulham, pouncing in the slow Wolves defence. 14 minutes later, and Davis struck again, he and Coney dancing through Wolves with a delightful 1-2 movement. And then 7 minutes from the end, Robert Wilson secured a Fulham victory, scoring at the left-hand post and emphasising that promotion will only be achieved by those who take their chances. Wolves 2, Fulham 4.
Let's have a look at the top of the Scottish Premier League now. Celtic still out front by those 3 points from Dundee United. Aberdeen third, Rangers fourth. It's very much as you were. And Dundee in fifth place. Right, let's hear about one of the the upsets in the Cup today. There were players sent off in the match, but Slough Town went through to the next round of the Cup at the expense of Millwall from Division 3 by 1-0. Barry Davis was there.
19-year-old Gary Atchell, who'd been doubtful because of injury, was the hero of the piece, scoring 2 minutes from time, with Slough finally making pay the man advantage they'd had since the 15th minute, making up also for the penalty missed by the skipper Chalky White in the 25th minute. In all, 3 men were sent off. Millwall's Dean Neal in the 15th minute for fighting with a local taxi driver who happened to be playing at right back for Slough, and Martin of Millwall and Evans of Slough for fighting each other. The second half was much more open, but it looked as though Slough would miss their chance until up popped Gary Atchell. Crowd problems all through, and the only latest report I have is that one spectator has been taken to hospital with a suspected knife wound.
Thanks, Barry. I think I can round up the other FA Cup shocks, as they're always called. Isthmian League Wokingham take the headlines, or join Slough in the headlines in the first round. The Berkshire side shocked third division Cardiff with a 14th minute goal from soldier George Torrance, who'd flown back from his base in West Germany specially to play. The match, though, was held up for 15 minutes in the second half when Cardiff fans spilled onto the pitch when a barrier collapsed. I've heard, though, that Cardiff have equalised. We're waiting the final result, as I understand it. There were shock wins, though, for Bishop Stortford, who beat third division Reading 2-1, North Shields, who won 1-0 at Halifax, and there were 4 players sent off in the Altrincham-Rochdale tie. That's the Cup news, more or less. Now let's have some rugby union results.
Club matches: London Scottish 23, Richmond 7. Bath 19, Coventry 15. Bristol 16, London Welsh 8. Cambridge University 20, Blackheath 19. Gloucester 20, Broughton Park 6. Gosforth 42, Birkenhead Park 0. Moseley 30, Roslyn Park 16. Northampton 22, Bedford 13. Oxford University 18, Harlequins 20. Wasps 15, Leicester 7. Waterloo 6, London Irish 13. Esher 12, Plymouth Albion 19. Exeter 3, Camborne 12. Harrogate 13, Orrell 15. Liverpool 20, Roundhay 13. Loughborough students and filed a late kick-off. Middlesbrough 15, Hartlepool 3. Morley 31, Nuneaton 6. Norton 12, Durham University 6. Otley 10, Sheffield 4. Sale 26, Nottingham 3. Streatham and Croydon 3, Metropolitan Police 21. West Hartlepool 7, Vale of Loon 10.
Well, now let's hear from a man who enjoys his football as much as he enjoys his music. He's the chairman of Watford Football Club, Elton John, and he saw his side beat Brighton 4-1 today, and he's talking now with our commentator, John Motson.
Well, there's a smile on your face, Elton, a 4-1 win, and I gather you've already worked out the league table.
Yeah, I think we're second, I'm not sure. It's heady stuff here at the moment. But, yeah, at least we got some action for BBC today.
An injury at half-time, or in the first half, to young Gilligan, but you brought on David Johnson, and the momentum, if anything, got even better.
Yes, I think at the start of the second half I was a little worried because I think we lost the centre-forward and we had to readjust. But once we got going again, I think little David Johnson played very well. And it's great to see an 18-year-old kid come on and do so well. I mean, we've got lots of them in this club, thank goodness.
2 penalties for Luther Blissett.
Yes, and he got them both. He's taken 2 penalties before, I think, this season. He missed one, and he had to retake the other one and scored, yeah.
And also a goal by Les Taylor, which from your side of the ground, you wondered if it might have been
everybody in the
offside,
director's box thought it was 10 yards offside at least. And I think even the players thought it might have been offside, yeah. It'd be interesting to see that.
And I suppose it's made a nice end to a week for you. I gather you've been more busy than usual.
Yeah, I've had 7 concerts in a row, and I really felt dreadful at the start of the game, but a bit of fresh air and a 4-1 win does wonders for you.
Well, it's good to see it going so well, Elton, and thanks very much for joining us on Grandstand.
Pleasure, thanks.
He's looking pretty well. He won't get any fresh air tomorrow afternoon. He'll be glued to the box to watch the match again, of course. Well, now, I've got one late kick-off result for you, or 1 or 2 in actual fact now. I've given you Manchester City 0, Birmingham 0. Boston 0, Crewe 1. These are in the Cup. Chesham 0, Yeovil 1. Tranmere 4, Scarborough 2. Workington 1, Cardiff 1. That's a result now. And Workington 1, Doncaster Rovers 2. They were late results. Boston and Chesham are latest scores. I should have told you that there. Right, let's move on to the Rugby League now. And, of course, it was the second test today between Great Britain and Australia. Australia won the first test comfortably. They won today's 2 by 27 points to 6. Let's have a look at the way they did it with their tries.
Peter Sterling, this is a little live wire. He's in. No. Push back again. Yes. 18 minutes gone. Australia, through Ray Price, go into the lead by 5 points to 2. Meninga, Growth. Oh, and a beautiful ball. And what a try. What backing up there. Craig Young, Wayne Pearce. Oh, just look at the pace and strength of this man. Brett Kenny. And it's still going. Pearce, Growth. He's still going. Oh, and he's in. These Australians certainly don't run in ones. There's people backing off them all the time. Oh, good long ball. And he's in. Mal Meninga. Wayne Pearce. This is why Australia are possibly bringing their forwards down the middle a little bit more. They want to pull the Great Britain forwards in before letting it out wide. Steve Rogers, oh, look at that. And he knocks off Ken Kelly with ease in front of the line.
Well, 2 results in football not yet in, and no pools news yet either. But the final headlines, it's been the worst day in football history with 14 players sent off. At the latest count, 11 were sent off in the FA Cup and the 3 others in the league matches. Previous worst on one day this season was 9. In the FA Cup, giant killing acts with Slough, Bishop Stortford and North Shields, all beating league opposition. Congratulations to them. But Liverpool still way up front at the top of Division 1. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.
Hello, Noel Edmonds here with a reminder that very shortly on your screens you'll be able to join me live for the Late Breakfast Show. I am here really, it's just still getting ready.
Now on BBC1, the news with Jan Leeming. It's 5:10.
Fleet Street print workers on the Telegraph are told go back to work or be sacked. For the past 3 nights, the Daily Telegraph has not been published in London because of a dispute over redundancies. The management's ultimatum runs out in about an hour when work is due to start on the Sunday Telegraph. And the indications so far are that the unofficial strike leaders intend to ignore it. Reporting from Fleet Street, Mike Mackay.
Full-time union officials are in no doubt the Telegraph management will carry out its threat and issue dismissal notices to their 450 machine men unless the dispute ends tonight. Once one of the most prosperous Fleet Street newspapers, the Telegraph has been losing sales and advertising revenue. They want to close one of their 15 folding and printing presses. The machine men say it's not just jobs and pay they're worried about. There are many other issues too.
How serious is your warning to dismiss the men?
Oh, absolutely total. We're confirming quite definitely that unless the Sunday Telegraph is produced normally today, we shall be issuing dismissal notices during the course of today.
But at a time when you're waiting for a positive response from the men, isn't the danger that that will be seen as a provocative action?
I don't really think so. We've already suffered 3 days of disruption, 3 days of loss of paper, and there really is nothing else we can do. I understand that the General Secretary of the Union has directed the men to return to work, and I don't really see that we have any alternative.
In fact, the machine men insist that they've already been sacked because the Telegraph management refused to pay them for doing a normal night's work on Tuesday. The men's shop floor officials say they're forbidden by union rules to speak publicly about the dispute. But informally, they told me this afternoon that it's the Telegraph which has broken the agreements and is attempting to impose unacceptable conditions. So, no Telegraph tonight, and a settlement to the dispute looks as far away as ever.
At the start of Pope John Paul's 2-day visit to Sicily, he's spoken out against the mafia and the appalling conditions under which so many local people have to live. It's the first visit to the island by a pope, and there was an excited welcome from tens of thousands of Catholics. Security was tight as the Pope is expected to confirm the decision of Sicily's bishops to excommunicate members of the mafia. Only a few hours earlier, 3 more people were murdered, one of them a 14-year-old boy. The Pope's visit is seen by Sicilians as the Church's formal recognition of the long-standing neglect of the South. And he visited Belice, where corruption has meant victims of an earthquake 14 years ago still live in tin shacks. The Polish Solidarity leader Lech Wałęsa has had 2 hours of talks with Poland's Roman Catholic Church leader Archbishop Glemp. It was the first time they'd met since Wałęsa's release from internment a week ago.
Lech Wałęsa's roadshow was underway again this evening after almost a year's break. Western newsmen chased him through the streets of Warsaw, but he refused to make a statement. His 2-hour meeting with Archbishop Glemp will have been a vital one, for the Church has always had a strong influence on Wałęsa and may well seek to guide him in any future activities. It's believed the Archbishop will have pressed Wałęsa to be cautious and moderate and warned him against encouraging any public demonstrations. The Church may well be anxious for Wałęsa to dissociate himself from the underground Solidarity, something he'll be reluctant to do.
The Irish Prime Minister, Charles Haughey, has accused England's Premier Earl and leading Roman Catholic, the Duke of Norfolk, of being a British spy. It's the latest twist in the Irish general election campaign, which has become increasingly dirty. Mr Haughey said his main rival, Dr Garret Fitzgerald, had been collaborating with the British government and that he'd been to London to meet the Duke. Mr Haughey's latest accusations were made at a news conference where his staff issued details of the Duke's. He said he had been involved in intelligence until the late 60s, but was certainly not a trained spy. So once again, the election issue has moved away from the Republic's own problems.
Latest row is a piece of barefaced electioneering by Prime Minister Haughey. He senses that the only chance of recovering the initiative in his flagging election campaign is to attack Dr Fitzgerald's radical plans for solving the Northern Ireland problem. So for the first time in years, Ulster has truly become a major issue in an election in the South. But at the end of the day, all this blarney about spies should only be taken with the very largest pinch of Irish salt.
We've just heard the body of a man was found in the boot of his own car in Dundalk outside Belfast this afternoon. He hasn't been named, but he was identified as a Roman Catholic. His death was thought to have been caused by gunshot wounds, and police are saying the shooting has all the hallmarks of a sectarian killing. The Soviet Union has described yesterday's test firing by the United States of a Pershing II missile as intensive preparations by Washington to deploy the weapon in Europe. The launch was successful at the third attempt. On the first launch, the rocket blew up 17 seconds into the flight. On the next attempt, the electrical equipment failed to operate and the missile stayed on its launcher. But this time there was no hitch and the rocket travelled 200 miles into space before coming down in its target area in New Mexico. Although the technical difficulties have been overcome, the political questions about the rocket's deployment remain. In Washington, President Reagan has been given a present of one of the famous white Lipizzaner stallions by the Austrians. The Austrian Chamber of Commerce is to pay all the expenses for the horse to be stabled in Washington. Martin Bell reports.
The south lawn of the White House, so often marched over by guards of honor, had never been trodden on quite so delicately. The white stallions of the Spanish riding school in Vienna are on an American tour, and they put on a special display here for the one president in recent years who really knows about horses. With recorded Viennese music playing in the background, they went through their precise paces for him. It can take 8 to 10 years to train a horse like this, and one of them, a 12-year-old named Amadeus, can continue to practice his steps in the United States. He's a gift from the Austrians to the president and the American people. And Mr. Reagan used a sugar lump to make friends with him. Perhaps he should have remembered from his acting days the danger of being upstaged by an animal.
Well, it is particularly fitting that this is the first time this has ever happened on the White House lawn. Just a minute. I know I'm talking too long. I'll make it short.
The two children who fell 60 feet from their London flat without breaking a bone are going to be kept in hospital at least overnight for observation. Robert and Natalie Wood, aged 2 and 3, were jumping from a windowsill onto a bed when they fell through the window of the 6th floor flat onto a roof below. A security officer said he heard 2 thumps as the children landed on the roof. There was another lucky escape for children at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in East London. The ceiling in one ward collapsed last night. 2 of the children were cut and needed stitches. The whole ward was refurbished for £150,000 and reopened only last July. There's to be an FA inquiry into the state of the ground at the non-league club of Wokingham Town. Their team's FA Cup tie with Cardiff City was marred by fighting and the collapse of 3 crash barriers. Here's David Cass.
The first barrier collapsed just after Wokingham took the lead. Later, fans were thrown forward and fighting broke out in the second collapse. The police brought on the dogs and several arrests were made. Minutes later, a policewoman was felled and knocked unconscious as the third section of barriers went down. The teams were taken off the field and play suspended for 17 minutes until order was restored and the policewoman taken for treatment. Her condition is not yet known.
In America, Thanksgiving Day takes place next week, and with Christmas not far away too, the American turkey industry is gearing up to fill the nation's dinner plates. But one bird has won a reprieve. It's Wilbur the turkey from Ottawa in Wisconsin, who keeps fit by regularly going jogging with his owner, Bob Fecto, and dog Queenie. Wilbur's become one of the family. It's thought to be an astonishing display of loyalty for a turkey. Wilbur's owner says that Wilbur will always be assured of a place at the dinner table, not on top of it. And that's the early evening news. Our main news is at 9 o'clock.
Good evening to you. Well, it looks as though today has certainly been by far and away the best day of the weekend, with this wet and windy weather coming along. The winds are going to be strong because these isobars are close together, and the wet weather's coming from the fronts as the low itself comes towards the northwest of the country during tonight and tomorrow. The satellite picture this afternoon was already showing a lot of that cloud quite close into the western side of Britain and western parts of Ireland, and there you can see it showing up bright white there. Some fairly clear skies still for a while to come over eastern parts of the country, so on the face of it a cold evening certainly to start with, but eventually this cloudier weather will reach most parts, I think, by the end of tonight. In fact, it's not just going to be cloud that'll be coming along to western parts, it'll be bringing some rain with it as well, and the rain's not far away from Northern Ireland and western parts of Wales, and during the night most of the heavier rain certainly is going to be taken northeastwards across Scotland and northern parts of England. Frost to begin with tonight in the far northeast of Scotland. Southeastern areas generally staying dry but certainly becoming cloudy, and that will stop temperatures falling too much, although I think there'll be some rain turning up in the extreme southwest by the end of the night. And for tomorrow, a very unsettled day, a very windy day for many areas really, quite strong southwesterly gales. The rain all the time working its way southeastwards as brighter weather follows in from the west. And that brighter weather is, I'm afraid, going to turn it colder again, certainly for northwestern parts. In these more central areas where it brightens up, and in western parts of Wales you'll find a few showers. The southeast probably staying dry until evening. And that's it.
The latest sports news now on BBC1 from Bob Wilson.
Good evening. First, the good news. There were 5 cases of giant killing in the first round of the FA Cup this afternoon. Now the bad news, 14 players were sent off today, and that's the highest in football history. 11 of those players were sent off in the FA Cup, with the Altrincham-Rochdale match accounting for 4 of them. Altrincham were also one of the 5 clubs who knocked out league opposition. They beat Rochdale 2-1. The other non-league sides who came through against supposedly superior opposition today were Slough, Bishop Stortford, North Shields and Boston. More about the FA Cup in a moment. Now the other headlines. Kenny Dalglish hit the winner for Liverpool, who beat Notts County 2-1 after trailing at half-time. That win takes Liverpool 4 points clear at the top of Division 1. Watford move into second place after their 4-1 victory over Brighton. Luther Blissett scored with 2 penalties in that match. John Barnes and Les Taylor were the other Watford scorers. Ian Wallace scored the only goal of the game at Sunderland, where Nottingham Forest won to move into 3rd place. Steve Archibald was the hero for Tottenham, who, like Liverpool, came from behind to beat West Ham. Archibald got both Spurs goals, with the winner coming in the last minute. Francois van der Elst had put West Ham ahead at half-time. Arsenal also came from being a goal down at Swansea to win 2-1. Bob Latchford had put the Welsh club ahead. England's midweek hero, Tony Woodcock, equalised. And Lee Chapman got the Arsenal winner with just 2 minutes left. Queen's Park Rangers are the new leaders in Division 2, beating Cambridge 4-1. But perhaps the most spectacular second division win came from Fulham, who won 4-2 at Wolves. Gordon Davis scored twice for Fulham to bring his total for the season to 14. Well, let's now have a look at the league tables. Liverpool extended their lead at the top of Division 1 to 4 points after their win at Notts County. Watford and Nottingham Forest both move above West Ham and Manchester United, and Aston Villa's win over United gets them into the top 6. At the bottom, Birmingham dropped to last place, with Norwich moving up 2 places after their win over Stoke. Norwich, in fact, were the only winners amongst those 8 clubs. Birmingham drew and the rest all lost. Queen's Park Rangers are the new leaders in Division 2, replacing Sheffield Wednesday, who dropped to 3rd. Fulham's fine 4-2 win at Wolves takes them into 2nd place, ahead of Sheffield Wednesday on goal difference. Wolves stay 4th. Scotland, and in the Premier Division, the top 3 teams all won, while Rangers dropped a point in a 0-0 draw at Kilmarnock. Leaders Celtic, 3-1 victors over bottom team Motherwell, had 28-goal Charlie Nicholas on target again, but he also missed a 63rd minute penalty. We have 2 late results now which we were unable to give you in Grandstand. There they are in the FA Cup first round. Boston United 3, Crewe Alexandra 1, and Chesham United 0, Yeovil Town 1. Right, pools news, and with 11 score draws and 5 no-score draws, no claims are required. The dividend forecast is moderate, but let's take a look at the numbers. And the score draws, numbers 12, 17, 21, 25, 29, 32, 43, 45, 48, 50 and 54. The no-score draws 3, 4, 19, 41 and 51. Right, back to the FA Cup and more about the Giant Killers. Slough led the way with a 1-0 win over 3rd Division Millwall. Gary Attrell getting the winner 4 minutes from time. But the game was marred by trouble on and off the pitch. 3 players were sent off, Millwall's Dean Neal and David Martin, he's also with Millwall, and Slough's Dylan Evans. And a warning was broadcast to the crowd after both goalkeepers complained of being stoned. At half-time, Millwall supporters swarmed onto the pitch and fights broke out. The police made a number of arrests. Cricket, and in Sydney, opener Jeff Cook put his first test flop behind him with a fighting 99 against New South Wales. Reserve wicketkeeper Ian Gould hit 73, but England were all out for 240 and New South Wales had replied with 48 for 2 at the close. Golf, and in Australia, Bob Shearer, the overnight leader with Jack Nicklaus, goes into tomorrow's final round of the Australian Open Championship in Sydney with a 2-shot lead. In today's 3rd round, he had a 72 for 217, 2 shots in front of Nicklaus, who had a 74. Nicklaus is joint 2nd with fellow American Payne Stewart and Australian Wayne Grady, who are all on 219. Rugby Union, and in Paris, France beat Argentina 13-6 after trailing 3-0 at half-time. Well, all we have time for now is to give you a match of the day trail. Tomorrow at 5 o'clock, 2 First Division games, Sunderland Forest, Watford Brighton. Join Jimmy Hill and myself at 5 o'clock. Sunday afternoon. Goodbye for now.
Saturday night entertainment on BBC1. At 6:15, The Late Late Breakfast Show. Noel Edmonds hosts another live show with this week's special guests Elkie Brooks and Kid Creole and the Coconuts. Then at 6:55, Blankety Blank. Terry Wogan attempts once more to persuade 6 star guests to fill in the blanks. At 7:30, Julia Bravo, and Hartley has an unwelcome new resident.
Frankie Miller's a good thief, very versatile.
Now, why has he come to live on my patch?
At 8:20, Paul Daniels performs magic and introduces his international guests.
Now you're gonna like this, gonna like it.
Not a lot, not a lot. At 9:15, the start of a new series, Shogun, starring Richard Chamberlain as a 17th century navigator shipwrecked on the shores of Japan.
You are a heretic Dutchman pirate. They crucify criminals and pirates here. You are going to die, Dutchman.
Callan at 11:35 completes Saturday night entertainment on BBC1.
And the evening gets off to a tire-squealing start right now with those Dukes of Hazzard.